What is going on YouTube? It's TikTok Tommy Boy here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing something a little different. Something I normally would never do, and depending on how this goes, I know it's very silent, but depending on how this goes, I may or may not do more of these in the future. But I'm going to be doing a review on Halloween Ends. Most people who know me know that I love my comic books. I'm a big comic book nerd. I love my video games and just anything pop culture. But I'm also a big horror movie fanatic, and Halloween, the original Halloween, was my introduction to horror movies. Probably around the time where I was too young to be watching horror movies. But I remember watching the original on a Halloween night. I can't for the life of me think what year it was. But and even at that I didn't get to see the full thing because it was late enough into the night and had been well into its runtime, but I remember seeing the final scene between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers and just being in absolute awe of it. In particular, being fascinated by Michael Myers. The white mask, the kitchen knife, the overalls, just this look of this intimidating force. And then years later, I went on to watch the original in full, and then I watched the rest of the movie and fell in love with the franchise. Most of them were great, a lot of them were really, really good, and there's a handful of ones that were absolutely terrible. I'm looking at you, Halloween Resurrection and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Complete dumpster fires. With that said, a lot of people have been saying the same thing about this movie, and I have been really enjoying the new Halloween trilogy by the Blumhouse Productions have done. And I thought the 2018 movie was amazing. It goes right up there with the original, just a complete classic. But Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends got a lot of hate from people, and I know I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, and I can see a lot of people will probably write some angry comments, which I would thankfully ask that you don't. Please be respectful. It's just my opinion. Key word there, my opinion. If you think it was terrible, you know, that's entirely your opinion, you know? I liked Halloween Kills and I really liked this one. I really liked Halloween Ends. Just hear me out. I know a lot of people I've seen a lot of the negative comments and thoughts that people have said about Halloween Ends, and like I get it. If you go into it thinking it's like the other Halloween movies, if it's like Halloween 2018, if it's like the original, you are probably going to be very disappointed. It's not, I will be honest, it's not like them, and I know the biggest complaint for a lot of people was little to no Michael Myers in the actual movie. I'm not saying he wasn't in it completely, he was in it, but he didn't have as many scenes as Halloween Kills or Halloween 2018, and I know that upset a lot of people. They were like, how could they do this? How could they end the franchise on such a terrible note? And I had a few thoughts like that, I will admit, when I watched it myself. And as I thought about it more and more, I began to appreciate it for what it is. Also, it goes without saying there is a spoiler warning in effect, so if you haven't seen Halloween Ends, I highly recommend you watch it. Even if you think it's terrible, it would be at least worth one viewing, and then form your opinion that way. And with that out of the way, so I will also say that if you haven't seen Halloween Ends, go watch the movie and then come back to this video, if you so choose. With that out of the way, I'll continue on. I found the story very fascinating, I must say. Um, it takes place 3, 4 years after Halloween 2018, and Michael Myers has disappeared since he was last seen in Halloween Kills. He's pretty much becomes a hermit living under the sewers, which, I mean, they kind of took from Halloween 5. If I'm being 100% honest, it's something I've seen done before. And Laurie has moved on. She has gotten to be in a good place in her life. You know, she's raising Allison, her granddaughter. She has her own place. She's been encouraged to write a book about her experiences and just overall getting on with her life. But Haddonfield itself has changed. The town changes, and in the sense that a lot of people have gone completely crazy with the paranoia of Michael Myers. And there's even murders that happen in the movie that aren't attributed to him, but because of the paranoia, people are like, is he back? Is he back? And then we're also introduced to Lost me train of thought there. I'm stammered on my words there. We are also introduced to Corey Cunningham, a character that had not appeared in any of the previous two movies and is just introduced in the opening prologue, where he's babysitting a child, a boy by the name of Jeremy, and he accidentally kills the child. He accidentally kills Jeremy. And this hangs over his head pretty much for the rest of his life. He, in a way, becomes compared to Michael Myers. He's seen as just as terrible. And Laurie ends up having a similar backlash with her. She's blamed for Michael Myers' killing spree, a lot of the terrible things that have happened in Haddonfield. And those are recurring themes, and I think it plays off of this idea that Michael Myers is merely the shape of evil. He isn't. He is a representation of evil, but it's that evil can simply change shape, and that's something that becomes a recurring theme throughout the movie, especially when Laurie does finish her book, is that evil changes shape. And nowhere is this more prevalent than in Corey's story arc. Like the first two kills attributed to him are complete accident. Well, one is complete accident and the other is mainly out of self-defense. But it's as the movie goes on and he starts to go down this darker path and essentially becomes a Michael Myers protege or a copycat. Straight away, I would compare his character to. There's two main characters that he reminded me of from previous horror movies I've seen. It gave me a lot of Friday. That whole story arc gave me a lot of Friday the 13th Part 5 vibes with the copycat Jason. But there was also a lot of, and I think it was done intentionally so as a tribute to John Carpenter. There's a lot of parallels between Corey and Arnie Cunningham from um, Christine. For one thing, they share the same last name, Cunningham, but also this theme of taking a innocent young man and events that happen in their lives that change them and put them down a darker path to where they become a form of evil themselves. And that's essentially what happens with Corey's story arc is he essentially becomes an evil person. And Laurie dives into the theme of there being two types of evil. The one that you essentially, she says there are two types of evil. The one you can see coming in the form of Michael Myers, but then the one that is more introverted and is more the one you can't see and that you can become infected by it. And speaking as someone who is big into psychology and is even studying, social studies and psychology, I found it fascinating, that comparison. I know a lot of people will hate the fact that a lot of the murders in the movie, a lot of the kills, are not attributed to Michael Myers. They're mainly done by Corey pretending to be Michael Myers. And there's even two kills where the two of them team up. Um, there's the one with the cop in the sewers, and then there's the one with the doctor and the nurse where the two of them take them out. Another big complaint that I've seen people talk about with Michael Myers is in this movie is he appears very weak. And I'll admit I was a bit taken aback by that myself. In comparison with Halloween Kills, where the way I look at Halloween Kills is it's Michael Myers in pure beast mode. Like, I think it's the highest body count he's had throughout the franchise. I could be wrong about that, but there were certainly a lot of kills in that movie, as the name implies. Compared to where we see him in Halloween Ends, where he appears to be quite weak and almost fragile. A lot of people, I was taken back by that myself, but then I started to look at it from a different angle in that it shows that he's still got a human body. He still appears human. He can be hurt like a human being. He has the weaknesses of human. It was interesting to show that even Michael Myers is not immune to the ravages of old age. And I think that plays a big factor in the movie's climax, where we get to the inevitable final battle between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. And then we have to beg the question: does evil die tonight? And as I said, there is a spoiler warning in effect, so the plain and simple answer to that is yes. But I'll get into that. But looking at it from the perspective of introducing this character who had no previous appearances in the Halloween franchise, had no previous affiliation with the main characters, main plot points, and then putting him on this path was fascinating. Now, I will say, I did find myself thinking that maybe they should have saved this for a different movie in the franchise if they wanted to go down that path. Maybe they thought to themselves, well, that would be too similar to the Friday the 13th franchise, dedicating a whole movie to a copycat killer. But I did find myself that you could stretch it out as its own thing if you so choose. But so it was strange at first to think that, well, why are they saving this for a finale of a trilogy? But that seems to be a theme with movie trilogies in general, is they introduce plot points that you hadn't previously thought of. If we're going to go by Scream 3 rules here. But I think a lot of people kind of don't appreciate that side of it. If you can look past this movie, as if you can look past the fact that it's not Michael Myers who's doing most of the kills, it's this young man who's pretending to be him, then you'll probably have a good time enjoying this movie. If you can't seem to look past that and you're pretty much enraged at the fact that it's not Michael Myers, then you this movie is not for you. And I'm going to say that straight up is that it's not, if you come into this movie thinking it's going to be like any of the other movies in the franchise, it's not. And you have to take it for what it is. So then we get to the climax of the movie. And I'm going to dive into the relationship between Allison and Corey in a minute. We get into the climax of the movie, and Laurie confronts Corey pretending to be Michael Myers, and he gets shot. And you can call it smart, you can call it whatever you want, you can call it pure stupidity, you can think of it as a stupid plot point, whatever. But I thought it was interesting is that he stabs himself in the throat to try and frame Laurie just as Allison comes in, and to make it look like, oh, Laurie killed him. And it causes this temporary rift between them. And that was kind of the moment where I find, instead of feeling like, oh, things could have been different for him, that was the moment I kind of find myself saying, oh, you know what, fuck this kid. What a fucking, just straight up sociopathic thing to do. Again, I do apologize for swearing, but sometimes I do have the mouth of a sailor, so if I do swear a lot in this video, I do apologize. But this, and then Michael comes in and he snaps the kid's neck, and then they have their final battle, and it's probably the best thing of the entire movie. And if you can look past everything else and just kind of wait it out until you can get to this, it's, for what it is, it's a pretty good fight scene between the two of them, and it's fucking brutal at the same time. And then he gets, essentially, the symbolism here is that Laurie pretty much crucifies him on the table with these knives, these fucking kitchen knives, as the symbolism of it, trying to essentially conquer evil in such a way is. And the thing about it is that he doesn't even that doesn't even phase him. He manages to rip his hand out later, like, just after she has cut his throat, and he's still trying to strangle the life out of her, and he very nearly succeeds as well until Allison comes back and breaks his arm. And then Laurie cuts his wrist for good measure. It's the highlight of Halloween Ends, in my opinion. And if you don't, if you come in and you feel disappointed, if you can wait it out even just for that, I think it's worth your time, honestly. And then to finish it off, they have Officer Hawkins come in. Frank Hawkins comes in and he sees Michael's body. He sees the whole carnage that has ensued in the house, and realizes that Michael Myers is dead. And they're like, well, not dead enough. So they go out of their way to bring him to the junkyard that Corey's uncle owned and that he worked at. They throw him into an industrial fucking shredder to destroy his body, and his head literally explodes. And I'm just there. I just watched it and I was like, if he ain't dead before, he's definitely dead now. And then the rest of the climax of the movie, the very end of the movie is kind of the theme is around the town healing. Laurie is healing. Allison heals by finally moving out of Haddonfield, and Laurie heals so much that she essentially rekindles a relationship with Hawkins, and for what it is, it's a pretty decent ending, I think. Um, I don't see how you could have changed it in any way. I mean, maybe if you wanted to go by the thing of Michael finally kills her or they both died. That's what I originally thought was going to happen. That was my theory going into this, is that the both of them were going to die. So I was actually pleasantly surprised by this ending. As for the Corey Allison romance, it's I couldn't really get into it, to be completely honest. It felt very kind of out there, very kind of forced. But I get the theme that they were going with, especially going by the logic of he's infected by evil. Like she tries to warn Allison, "Oh, I see a lot of Michael Myers in him." So I get the where they were going with the whole romance subplot. Could it have done without it? Probably. To be honest, I don't think I would have noticed if it was in there or not. But it was intriguing nonetheless, and I guess the idea was that they were trying to show some bit of humanity still left in him, even as he begins his transformations and into what he becomes. Like he starts to act a lot more like Michael Myers. He copies the standing in the corner and then disappearing. He's sneaking up on Laurie. But it does seem like inevitable, though, that he becomes what he becomes. So overall, what would I give this movie? Um, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna say 8 out of 10, maybe even a 7 out of 10, purely because it's not a Michael Myers focus thing. Like it did kind of disappoint a few expectations I had, but it's still pretty high up. I wouldn't call it the worst movie in the franchise. I quite enjoyed it for what it is. I like it, and I liked Halloween Kills as well. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't like those movies, and that's totally fine. I mean, you know, don't go attacking me or shitting on me purely because I didn't agree that I didn't like it, because I took it for what it is. So I guess really the question is, where does the franchise go from there? Well, the most likely answer is they're going to probably reboot it, and I don't think I could deal with another Halloween reboot, to be honest. Like the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie, I found it okay. The second one was a complete dumpster fire. And on the at the risk of reliving that, I would rather they don't reboot, or at the very least don't reboot it anytime soon. Maybe give it 10, 20, 50 years. And then hit the reboot switch. The other alternative is, okay, so the one movie in the Halloween franchise is completely different to the other movies purely because it isn't about Michael Myers, is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. The one with the killer Halloween masks, as most people like to remember it. That the ones that when you put the Halloween mask on, it turned your head to mush. The original intention of the Halloween franchise was it was going to be done as an anthology series. The first two movies would focus on the Michael Myers story, but then the sequels following that would follow a different horror story altogether. And the reason Halloween 3 didn't do as well as it did when it came out is purely because people were asking the question, where is Michael Myers? They got caught up on what I like to call Michael Myers mania. And for that reason, it didn't do as well as the rest of the franchise. But in more recent years, it has gained a cult following. A lot of people are starting to appreciate it for what it is. And you could maybe go down that line. A lot of people probably wouldn't like that idea purely because they wouldn't be movies about Michael Myers. Like, I'll be honest, Michael Myers is one of my favorite horror movie villains of all time. And I would be very disappointed if we didn't get a Halloween movie with him in it. But at the same time, I'd be intrigued to see the anthology um, series idea that they had intended from the start. I think it would be a lot more accepted now than it was back then. So it's an intriguing idea, but as far as the Halloween franchise goes for now, it has ended. They have ended it in the best possible way. I do hope they revisit it in the future. I don't think it's the last Halloween movie. I think there will be more. Absolutely. I mean, it would be crazy to think that there won't be. And I mean, it's a recurring theme in horror movies anyway that the final chapter is never the final chapter. There's always going to be more. As long as there's money to be made, there will be more. But that's my overall review. I know I'm not as detailed or as professional as most people who do movie reviews. Again, as I said, I've never done something like this before. Probably won't even. I'll stick to my voice impression videos as I normally do. And I couldn't simply do an impression of a character like Michael Myers for the simple fact that Michael Myers does not speak. And it's not even that he can't, he's not mute, it's that he simply chooses not to, and that gives me nothing to work with. And I can't imagine a lot of you would want to see me wearing a Michael Myers costume and just saying absolutely nothing. So I decided to give my opinion on this because it's been in my head for a while and I wanted to express it in the best possible and share it with you guys. And also to give a different perspective on this movie because there will be a lot of people will see the bad reviews about it that really go to town on it and just tear it to shreds. And as I've repeated over and over, if that's the opinion you form from watching it, then that's completely normal. That's completely fine. That's your opinion on it. But this is my perspective. This is the opinion I got on it, and this is the view I got on it. So with that said, I will thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to my channel for more. I can't guarantee I'll be doing any more reviews like this, but if you like my impressions, I very much appreciate it because these likes do not go unnoticed. I will say, and I'm very, very grateful to all my subscribers and the people who like the videos and enjoy them and the comments. It very much means the world to me, and it's why I do it. I do it because not only does it make me happy, but it makes other people happy viewing that content. And as long as people are watching, I'll continue to do it. And even if I get a load of hate comments, I'll still continue to do it because it makes my day knowing that there are people out there who do enjoy my content. And I'm not gonna stop purely because of a few people who are like, what the fuck was this? Never gonna happen. Content like this is always coming out. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.